When looking forward to a film, everyone handles it a little differently. Some of us want to soak up all the anticipation by watching every second of footage that gets released, and some of us avoid the trailers as much as possible so we can go in completely clear of expectation. That being said, whether you head to the cinema or boot up a movie on your streaming service of choice, you can't avoid at least seeing some kind of marketing image. Over the years, many films have outright fibbed about their content to us in order to get us to part with our cash. Sometimes it's a sneaky little misdirection, and other times they get away with bold-faced lies. The film posters on this list made promises they couldn't keep, and you'll never get your money back because of it. I'm Cy for Whatculture.com, and these are movie posters that lied to your face. X-Men 3: The Last Stand. Before the MCU kicked open the door for any combination of Marvel characters to grace our screens, we had the X-Men trilogy. Getting excited for a new X-Men film was kind of like waiting for a new Pokemon game to come out. What kind of new friends and enemies would we see this time? Each entry in the franchise included new mutants from the back catalogue of the comics, and The Last Stand was no different. Angel, with all of his boyish good looks and his luscious wings, was a big part of the marketing for the film, and he appears on every single poster, usually clad in the X-Men's leather uniform. It feels like Ben Foster probably only got to wear the outfit for one day, however, and that was for publicity shoots, as during the runtime of the film, Angel never dons the outfit. Promising a new member of the X-Men team on the poster does not reflect the movie's course, as Angel's story is pretty much its own thing entirely. Additionally, the poster also features Cyclops all suited up and ready to fight. Infamously, this is a blatant red herring considering the fact that he's killed off unceremoniously 25 minutes into the picture. Justice for Scott Summers.
Have you ever wanted to watch your favourite content whilst you're abroad and stay safe online? Well, we have an incredible deal for you. For just $2.50 a month, you can get Norton VPN, an easy-to-use VPN that won't slow you down, allows you to watch your favourite shows from around the world, and keeps your online activity safe and private, all with a 60-day money-back guarantee. Just scan the QR code on screen right now or use the link in the description to get Norton VPN for just $2.50 a month. Now, back to the video.
Avengers: Infinity War. Fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe are well aware of Marvel Studios' deliciously devious marketing tactics over the years, willfully misleading audiences to ensure their time spent watching the series' latest installment is full of surprises. Even so, they went into full manipulative overload during the marketing blitz for Avengers: Infinity War, which not only digitally edited trailer footage and included money shots created solely to throw viewers off, but cleverly hid a major Thor Ragnarok spoiler in plain sight. This Comic-Con poster right here for Infinity War was released in July 2017, several months before Ragnarok even hit theaters. And so, in order to conceal the spoiler that Thor ends up losing an eye, a plot point that carries over into Infinity War, the poster hides the offending side of Thor's face. Very, very clever. Early trailers for the film, meanwhile, digitally restored Thor's missing eye too. Somewhat ironically though, Thor just ends up being gifted a new eye by Rocket midway through the film anyway, so it's not quite the big deal it first seemed.
Frogs. Frogs is a totally bizarre 1970s eco-terror film about wildlife photographer Pinkett Smith, as portrayed by Sam Elliott, who, whilst exploring a swamp, gets wrapped up in the strangest series of events. Taken to a private island, numerous animal-based murders occur, and landowner Jason refuses to let Pinkett leave. The poster for the film and the title are actually both misleading, as whilst frogs are certainly mentioned, the marketing for the movie seems to imply a much greater role than they get. Looking at the poster, you'd assume that this was a movie about giant man-eating frogs. Not only are the frogs totally normal-sized, they're also not all that important an aspect. There's a lot of random deaths in the film caused by any number of animals: lizards, tarantulas, eagles, snakes, leeches, but the frogs don't really get involved until the final moment. And do they eat someone? No, their en masse appearance seems to cause death by heart attack. Most likely this is a case of an artist being given the film's name and genre and then just coming up with something based on that alone. It's a totally nonsense movie at the best of times, so perhaps the poster is suitable for being equally ridiculous, but if you promise giant man-eating amphibians, then you better deliver.
Frozen. Disney strikes again, this time with their 2013 animated smash Frozen, which in many of its most prominent posters featured Snowman's sidekick Olaf front and center. Despite him being, you know, a snowman's sidekick, that's not to deny the character's charm or how effortlessly he appealed to children, but from the look of this poster in particular, you'd be forgiven for assuming that Olaf was the protagonist and the humans were his goofball sidekicks, not the other way around. Given that Olaf doesn't show up until until almost halfway through the movie, his placement in the marketing feels rather disproportionate, even if he is undeniably one of the most iconic and recognizable aspects of the film. And that right there is a subtle lie. Do you wanna lie about a snowman? Okay, lie. Do you think Frozen is the best Disney animated movie of all time? Well, if it's not, you let me know in the comment section what is.
My Sister's Keeper. If your initial expectations for My Sister's Keeper are bright, warm and sunny, then you have the poster to thank for that. Cameron Diaz is smiling, Abigail Breslin is smiling, and Sofia Vassilieva is innocently blowing bubbles. This looks like a heartfelt and wholesome romp about a happy family. In truth, these characters have very little to smile or blow bubbles about. The story follows a rather twisted family dynamic. Diaz's Sarah and her partner have their second daughter Anna expressly for the purpose of harvesting her organs to sustain the life of her leukemia-ridden older sister Kate. Terminal illnesses, legal clashes between family members, and mortality are not the subjects that come to mind when you see this poster. Let's just say it's not exactly the kind of thing you'd pick for a cozy night at home or a family film gathering. What's promoted as a touching drama is actually a pretty harrowing affair, and Sarah forcing her daughter into medical servitude is some pretty god-awful supervillain stuff. My Sister's Keeper is a fairly melodramatic tale that involves a lot of shouting and crying. There's not a lot of smiling or frolicking to be had, despite what the poster seems to imply.
Unknown. At first glance, this poster for 2011's Liam Neeson starring thriller Unknown seems like it sells the film perfectly and honestly. You've got a snappy tagline, attractive blonde women, hints at an exotic locale, and best of all, Liam Neeson holding a damn gun. Except Liam Neeson doesn't actually hold a gun, let alone fire one in the entire movie. Yep, clearly Warner Brothers were hoping to cash in on the success of Taken by implying that Unknown was just another action flick in the same vein, even though it's actually far more of a Hitchcockian suspense thriller. Thankfully, it's still a pretty solid movie and went on to become a box office success, likely due in part to this act of low-key fibbing.
Reign of Fire. 2002's sci-fi fantasy flick Reign of Fire should have been a slam dunk. The concept of a world under siege from once hibernating dragons was exciting and a fresh evolution of the dinosaur mania that had gripped the world following Jurassic Park. Its star-studded cast includes Christian Bale, Matthew McConaughey and Gerard Butler, just to name a few. You could sell the picture today on that alone. Still, it never quite succeeded in the way that it should have, and some didn't enjoy the film's grey and grim Mad Max style post-apocalypse wasteland. It probably didn't help that the marketing for the film was a lot brighter and had some frankly fantastic visuals that don't show up in the movie. What makes this poster worse than being a lie is that it looks, quite intentionally of course, way more awesome than the actual movie is. With dragons flying over a burning modern day London, it seems to imply that the setting of the picture is during the war between humanity and Giant Lizard, rather than in truth set decades after the fact. Of course, such a thing would have been a budgetary nightmare, but marketing your movie like it's the next big CGI blockbuster when it doesn't have the chops to back it up makes this a pretty big misdirect.
Star Wars Episode 6: Return of the Jedi. The Star Wars franchise is no stranger to manipulative marketing, and many decades before The Force Awakens sold audiences a mostly absent Luke Skywalker, the series depicted Luke and Leia as far sexier than they actually were in posters for the original movie. A stranger and more subtle lie came in the iconic poster for Return of the Jedi, where Luke is shown to be wielding a blue lightsaber, just as he does in the first two films. But in the actual film itself, Luke's lightsaber is of course green. A scandal, clearly. In fairness, this was in no way the fault of the marketing team, who presumably threw the poster together during principal photography, before the lightsaber had actually been created in post-production. Once the film was in the can, however, the crew realized that Luke's blue lightsaber would blend into Tatooine's blue sky in the opening sequence, and so changed it to green. Hardly a malevolent act of duplicity, but we all know how nitpicky Star Wars fans can be, even about a poster of all things. I'd still hang that bad boy on my wall.
Bridge on the River Kwai. This 1957 war drama is widely considered one of the best films of all time. It certainly has the accolades to back it up, being the highest grossing movie of its year, winning 7 Academy Awards, and being now preserved in the National Film Registry for its significance to Western culture. That being said, for all that it did well, there were some very weird missteps along the way. Bridge on the River Kwai has a few promotional posters, but one that stands out is the one with William Holden's character, Commander Shears, standing tall with the eponymous bridge in the background. Holden has first billing on all of the film's marketing, but what makes this strange is that he's arguably not the picture's main character. A pre-Obi-Wan Kenobi, Sir Alec Guinness plays Colonel Nicholson, whose character is at the heart of the bridge and who has the most important arc of the story. A British soldier who becomes obsessed with his labour to build the bridge, Nicholson ends the film by taking down his work in a final act of defiance. Colonel Nicholson is the beating heart of the piece, so this poster seemingly saying it's all about Commander Shear's thrilling heroics is all wrong.
Clerks. The main poster for Kevin Smith's incredible indie comedy Clerks depicted 5 of the movie's main characters, with the very clear implication being that all 5 of them work as clerks. But in actual fact, only Dante and Randall on the left and right edges of the group respectively are clerks. As for the other 3, the leftmost woman is Marilyn Gigliotti, who plays Dante's girlfriend Veronica, and on the right we have the late Lisa Spoonhour, who plays Dante's ex, Caitlin, and of course, way in the back, we have Smith himself as skeevy stoner Silent Bob, who couldn't be much further from a clerk. He deals drugs outside Dante and Randall's place of employment, and frequently serves as their foil throughout Smith's Askewniverse. But from this poster, you'd assume they all work together as clerks, the tagline referring to the 5 collectively as they, when in actuality, the other characters simply pay Dante and Randall various visits throughout the film. Granted, the poster at least sells the tone of the movie accurately enough, even if 3 of the 5 characters on the poster have much smaller roles than you'd probably expect. Also, where the hell is Jay? Cheers for watching this video wherever you are on this spinning ball today, my friend. If you're enjoying what you're watching, then hit that subscribe button down below for more of this Whatculture stuff in your day. Now back to the video.
Mortal Kombat 2021. The original Mortal Kombat film might be B-movie nonsense, but it did give us the adored dance floor filling techno theme tune, so we have to thank it for that. Mostly it was gloriously stupid fun, with the highlight being the fight scenes with the series mainstays Sub-Zero and Scorpion, even if they are brief. It felt as though the 2021 reboot of Mortal Kombat had this in mind then, when the marketing for the film put these 2 characters in pretty prominent positions. The movie's poster was literally just these 2 faces and nothing more, and the trailer seemed to back up the idea that this would be a colour-coded ninja-focused affair. In actuality, whilst it is the best scene in the film, Sub-Zero and Scorpion's interactions are contained to the first 15 minutes, and they're not even in their classic garb. After the fight concludes, we jump forward to the present day. Sub-Zero acts as an ongoing antagonist of the flick, but Scorpion only returns in the final showdown in a rather muted fashion. Mortal Kombat released during the COVID-19 pandemic and asked for a pretty hefty rental fee, especially here in the UK. How did it get you to part with your cash? Promising you a story focused on 2 characters that barely interacted in the film.
Pretty Woman. It's not much of a secret that Julia Roberts employed the use of a body double called Shelley Michelle for several scenes in Pretty Woman, in order to make her hooker with a heart of gold protagonist Vivian Ward seem a little more curvaceous. But the doubling actually extended out of the movie itself to its iconic poster, which of course features Roberts and co-star Richard Gere posed back to back. You know the one. Yet in actuality, this body also belongs to Michelle, with Roberts' head simply being superimposed over the top. The poster implied a more shapely Vivian than was actually the case. Though, given that the film is far more about its characters than just sex, it's hard to really feel especially shortchanged by the sneaky cut and paste job. Between the film's stonking $463.4 million haul at the box office and a Best Actress Oscar nomination for Roberts, audiences clearly didn't mind either.
Camp Hell. There's definitely something wrong with knowingly making a poster to pull the wool over your audience's eyes to make a quick buck. It's bad when it's a big studio, but it's somehow worse when it's a group of small filmmakers trying to ride the coattails of a kind favour. Camp Hell is a 2010 horror film that explores the clash of religious faith and sinful urges. It's generally regarded as of middling quality and a pretty pointless movie to watch. More infamous than anything about the film itself is the way that Jesse Eisenberg reacted to being on the poster. To help sell the film, Eisenberg agreed to appear in a cameo for a reduced fee as a favour to friends of the production. Even as the most successful actor in the film's runtime, especially off the back of The Social Network, he didn't anticipate that the poster for Camp Hell would be nothing more than just his floating head. In June 2012, the actor won a preliminary court case suing Lionsgate and Grindstone Entertainment for misrepresentation. He didn't want to be part of the charade when he knew full well he only had a brief appearance that was shot in less than a day. Eisenberg earned $3 million in damages, which is more than the movie's budget, going to show that, like crime, telling lies doesn't pay.
Godzilla 1998. If you were any older than a baby in 1998, you'll probably remember the iconic marketing campaign for Roland Emmerich's Godzilla movie, which shied away from showing the titular monster beyond his gigantic foot, with taglines memorably reminding the audience that size does matter. The irony of this statement still echoes strong over 20 years later, given that the final film actually featured a far smaller and more pathetic-looking reptilian dinosaur Godzilla than the posters had promised. While the film depicts Zilla being about as tall as a small skyscraper, around 200 to 250 feet, going by his foot on this poster, his legs alone would have surpassed that height. The Meg pulled a similar trick by depicting the titular beastie on posters as far larger than it appeared in the film, but it's a lot tougher to be mad when the resulting movie is actually, pretty good. Godzilla 1998, meanwhile, was both a bad movie on its own merits and an awful, dishonest rendition of the iconic monster. Makes you want to shoot atomic breath into the damn sky.
Escape from New York. Escape from New York is the tale of a walled-in Manhattan prison and the mission of one man, Kurt Russell's Snake Plissken, as he ventures inside to save the United States president. The film's poster depicts Snake and company seemingly tried to escape a riot, with the head of the Statue of Liberty lying prone in a random Manhattan street. It's famous for multiple reasons. First of all, it's a really cool piece of art and the kind of thing you'd frame and hang on your wall. Secondly, it doesn't reflect a scene in the film, it's all made up. There is exactly one moment where we see old Libby, and that's near the start of the movie. Fun fact, this is the only part of Escape from New York actually shot in New York. At no point does the statue ever come back into things, and naturally, of course, she doesn't get beheaded either. Come to think of it, considering she's way offshore, how exactly would the Statue of Liberty's head end up in a random street anyway? It's certainly a really cool image, but it badly misrepresents the film. If you were waiting to see that crazy action sequence, you were going to wind up disappointed.
American Beauty. The iconic poster for the Best Picture-winning American Beauty took a memorably minimalistic approach to selling the film's characters and themes, featuring only a woman's stomach with a hand laid across it while holding a rose. And though the clear implication is that this stomach and hand both belong to actress Mina Savari, who memorably plays precocious cheerleader Angela Hayes in the movie, that actually isn't the case at all. While the stomach is that of an unnamed model, the hand in fact belongs to a pre-fame Christina Hendricks, who was just starting out her acting career when she took the gig. Hendricks eventually revealed this fact on Instagram, professing pride that she was part of the film in any way, no matter how small. Given that there's absolutely zero chance of anyone ever figuring this out on their own, it's just a pretty neat switcheroo that nobody could possibly be mad about. So on that note, try not to be mad today, be happy, bye bye.
Dracula 3000. Dracula 2000 is an edgy and altogether awful noughties revamp of Bram Stoker's classic tale, so why anyone would want to pay homage to it by creating a film called Dracula 3000 is beyond comprehension. At least it's faithful in that, like Dracula 2000, there are also almost zero redeemable qualities in its runtime. Set aboard a spaceship 1,000 years in the future, cyborg Aurora and vampire slayer descendant Abraham Van Helsing must fight off Count Orlok and stop him from getting to Earth. The vampires of the film look exactly like the most low-budget expectation of a vampire as possible. Red contacts, fake fangs popped in over the teeth, impractical collars. So what the heck is that thing on the poster? Clearly trying to evoke the futuristic feel and going way too far with it, it badly misrepresents the film and promises a lot more than it can deliver. Some sort of cyborg vampire hybrid would have actually given this flick something interesting, and it definitely gets the mind turning over way more than the movie deserves. As it stands, the vampires in Dracula 3000 are boring, which is at least perfectly in tune with the story, directing, casting, and everything else. But hey, at least it's got that crazy poster. Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines. At one point, Terminator 3 was considered the worst of the Terminator films, but then a few more came along that got progressively shoddier. The franchise had once been a clever sci-fi thriller, so many disliked Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines, taking a bigger step than before into ultimately thoughtless action. Schwarzenegger returns to the main role of the T-800, and his duty of protecting John and Sarah Connor continues against the new threat of Christiana Locken's T-X. What makes matters worse is that before the film's release, the poster seemed to show so much more potential than the finished product. Under Arnie's cold and blank expression was what appeared to be an army of Terminators with the TX at the forefront. This ensemble of robots, and the subtitle, Rise of the Machines, seemed to imply that the film would finally be an all-out war between humanity and Cyberdyne's creations. What we got instead was a watered-down version of Terminator 2 that put the franchise to bed for 6 years. Terminator Salvation finally gave us a look at the mass-scale clash of human and cyborg, but ironically, its poor reception made Terminator 3 a much easier pill to swallow by comparison.